Hello everyone, Espurr here. Now, what I did a game on Rainmaker Inkblot. We're watching the Sploosh Neo. Now, looking at the comps, your comp is fine. You would have to play on the more aggressive side, but that should be fine. Honestly, comps look pretty meh. At least for solo queue, in solo queue terms, or even. But in actual terms, I was rating this competitively at no. But this ain't competitive. This is solo queue. Anyways, so what's your plan here? You're gonna try to play some line. You take this guy out who ran into you. That's good. Now you're gonna try to go and flank to the right, but you're trying to gather more intel to see if it's actually a good time to flank, which it kind of wasn't. Kind of was, kind of wasn't. I do want to point out this entire time, the only way you've been helpful, or actually like done anything, is kill one shot. You killed like a shot once. Let's see, it took, how long is it gonna take? Okay, so it took 45 seconds in order for you to actually be helpful outside of that one kill. The entire time, you weren't really getting anything done. Like, you were trying to prod and poke, whatever, for some kind of opening, but you know, couldn't really find one. Now there is one way for Sploosh Neos to force an opening, and that is with their special. Luckily, Sploosh Neos can get them relatively quickly, but the problem is a special is inherently unreliable to get. Some weapons can get them faster than others, like Sploosh can. Sploosh can get them really fast, but it's still an unreliable thing to get. So if it's ever stalled, it's entirely realistic for it to not have a whale available. That's just the fundamental problem of its kit. So what I want to mention though is whatever. So what I want to mention though is the Sploosh here was noticing that during the pushes, it felt like they weren't really present to help the Rainmaker push. So you jump over to the left as the Rainmaker's over to the right. So it seems like you're gonna try to flank. Better be quick. It was not. Well, it was, but you died quickly. That was about it. Sad. Happens. So the thing is with Sploosh is it can get... You'll get stalled. Like, okay, let me try to format my words better. So it is entirely realistic for you to get stalled. It is going to happen no matter what you're playing. You're going to get stalled. There's going to be a situation where you can't go in. Now Sploosh is the kind of weapon that wants to try to force itself in, and it can force itself in. Like, it's capable of doing that, but sometimes even if you can force yourself in, you don't want to go in there. Sometimes forcing yourself in kind of just means dying. And Sploosh isn't the kind of weapon that can really like take advantage of something like that. A Tetra could, because it's what is it? It can move pretty well on enemy ink due to its rolls. A Splatana can, because it has what Sploosh has, but it also has range. So it can take some fights on enemy ink due to its range and its mobility and its paint. And its combo potential. It has a lot of things going for it. When I say Splatana, I mean Wiper. Sploosh... So, Sploosh is basically, kind of in a way, has what Splatana does. But like less of it. And not only that, but Splatana and Tetra, they have an option for if a Sploosh gets stalled. Like, I think what's happening here is the Sploosh player is kind of realizing why are you on the left and the Rainmaker's on the right? So the Sploosh player is kind of realizing a fundamental truth of Sploosh, where if during defense or the push in any time, this is especially susceptible on the push because it's entirely possible for what is it? Yeah, it's entirely possible for the enemy to just stall you on the push, because that's what they're trying to do. The enemy's trying to stall you and trying to make you wait. So if you're in a position where the pace of the game is slowed and you can't really go in, Sploosh can't really do anything all too well. Let's see. What else I want to point out is like, oh, okay, here's the thing. So let's bring back the Tetra and the Wiper thing again. So Wiper, if it gets stalled, what can it do? Well, it can throw a stamp, but if it doesn't have a stamp, it can throw torpedoes, and that's pretty good. It's really annoying getting torpedoed. Tetra can throw auto bombs, and while auto bombs aren't the best bombs, they're still respectable. You can still die to them. They'll still make you move. You still have to like look at them and all that stuff. But if you look at Sploosh, its only answer is to throw a special, and while it can get them really quickly, specials are inherently unreliable. You can't always have. They're not always available. That's their entire shtick. They're not always there. So there will be times where you need a special, but you just can't get one. What I also here's okay. But aside from like the actual problems of Sploosh, let's actually talk about what was going wrong. Like what could they could have done better. So the Sploosh here kind of had one game plan. It was to flank the entire game. Granted, that's kind of what Sploosh has to do. But regardless, because they were flanking the entire game, that meant that they were kind of just going into areas that may or may not have been relevant. Like, for example, when they were pushing, the times where I said, why are you on the left? That's kind of just because it was the easiest place to flank / the only place to flank. If they went over to the right, where the Brainmaker was, there wouldn't really be a place to flank unless they... No, they could. They could... ah, my bad. Drop through mid and then flank through there. That's a possibility, but they flanked through left because they already had a beacon there. But being on the left, you also want to make sure, you want to keep in mind that whenever you're flanking, the time it takes, the time in between thinking of flanking or like starting a flank and actually pulling it off, you're not really helping. In fact, you're actually hurting your team by not directly helping them. So you're basically leaving them a man down. It's as if you died. And if you don't get anything with that flank, you basically died, or you're basically dead for as long as your typical death timer, and however long the flank actually took. So you want to have a strategy outside of simply flanking. However, what that could be with Sploosh, that kind of is the issue you're going to run into. If you want to stick with Neo Sploosh, that's fine. But your best answer to what can I do when I don't flank or can't flank is going to have to be grabbing a special. Now that's the plan for everyone, but what you're missing though is the ability to stall the enemy and to slow them down. That's what you're missing. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to rely on your team to slow them down. And then grab your special. Luckily you can do it pretty fast. So once you have your special, pop it, go, and there you go. Alright, but that'll be it for today though. See y'all.